The cult of personality has become very popular these days. Everyone wants to be like Mike. They say, "Oh, I'm the captain now," even though they are just another nameless pawn in the grand scheme of things. Today we will talk about a hero who also loved to play the captain, but unlike others, his actions were motivated by an insatiable desire for power and dominion over the world. You may know him better as Judge Dredd. We all have our own fears and insecurities. Some of us may even harbor thoughts of revenge against those who wronged us. But what if those dark thoughts consumed you, twisted your very soul? That is the stuff nightmares are made of, but to some, it is a reality. Greetings, mortals. I am your host, here to guide you through the realms of horror and the supernatural. Today we will venture into the realm of Judge Dredd, where justice is swift and brutal and where the line between good and evil is blurred beyond recognition. Join me, if you dare, for today we explore the darkness that lies within the heart of man. In the dystopian future of Megacity 1, humanity has advanced technologically, yet regressed morally. The megacities are lawless wastelands patrolled by mutant gangs and megacorporations. In this chaotic world, a new breed of lawmen emerged, the street judges. Tasked with maintaining order and dispensing justice on the streets of Megacity 1, they became symbols of hope in a sea of despair. Among them, one judge stood out. His name was Joseph Welt, but he was better known as Judge Dredd. From the moment he donned the iconic black and white striped uniform, Joseph was forever changed. As Judge Dredd, he became a ruthless killing machine, feared and respected in equal measure. He took pride in being emotionless, viewing it as a sign of strength and control. To him, emotions were weaknesses that could be exploited. He believed that without mercy one could not be just, and thus he became a judge, jury, and executioner all in one. But what happens when a monster becomes the system? What happens when a merciless killing machine is given free rein to dispense his own brand of justice? Let's find out. It started subtly enough. Citizens went missing without a trace, presumed dead by their families and the police. But there was no evidence, no bodies, no witnesses. Then the rumors began, whispers of a secret police force operating in the shadows, taking the law into their own hands. Fear gripped the city as people became paranoid, convinced that Big Brother was watching. Meanwhile, Joseph, fueled by a lust for power, reveled in his brutality. He saw himself as a savior of Megacity 1, purging it of its evils, but in doing so, he became the very thing he despised. Emotions, in his view, were a sign of weakness, and he ruthlessly stamped out any display of compassion or empathy. He manipulated and controlled those around him, using them as pawns in his game of cat and mouse with the citizens of Megacity 1. Then the day came when the citizens had enough. They rose up against the regime, but they were no match for Joseph's ruthlessness. He crushed the rebellion, leaving the city in ruins and its people broken. And yet amidst the chaos, a glimmer of humanity remained, a testament to the enduring spirit of man. But as the dust settled, a new nightmare began. For in the wake of the rebellion, Joseph found himself transformed. He had become the very embodiment of the corruption he had sworn to fight. He had become Judge Dredd, a merciless killing machine who ruled Megacity 1 with an iron fist. Now, do you remember the tale of Judge Dredd? How did it end? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. And don't forget to like and share if you want more stories like these. Until next time, stay safe and remember, some monsters are born, not made. Welcome to my channel. In the days before the ceremony, she moved through the city like a figure seen through glass present, yet somehow apart. She continued her daily errands, greeting neighbors, bartering for grain, but the glances she received were not the same as before. They were weighted, reverent in a way that carried no comfort. Her name was Selin Marov, though her family name would soon be spoken only in hushed tones, if at all. She had been selected by the council's Talia process wrapped in secrecy. Some claimed the decision was based on omens, others whispered it was determined by debts of influence and politics disguised as tradition. But whatever the method, once a name was spoken in the council hall, it became fixed as stone. No appeal, no refusal. Selin wasn't sure how old she was. It didn't matter much in this city where half the year days were dark and the other half were filled with work. Age was measured in seasons, in harvests and snows. Besides, in 2 nights she would be counted among the ancestors, her years becoming a story told around braziers on winter nights. What struck Selin most was the calm she felt, as if the knowledge of her appointed role had quieted the constant noise of daily life. The streets seemed sharper to her eyes, the carved cornices of the old guild houses, the faint scent of the bakers' ovens, the pattern of light on the canals. All these things she noticed as if they were parting gifts from the city itself, but Harrows was not sentimental. The closer the appointed night drew, the more the city seemed to draw away from her. Friends averted their eyes. Merchants hesitated before taking her coins. Even the wind seemed to pass her by as though carrying her presence would be unwise. She was not shunned in malice, rather in fear of sharing whatever shadow followed her. It wasn't fear of the dead that kept the townsfolk indoors after nightfall. This was a city built on bones, and its people knew that every street had been soaked in blood long before their time. Every building had known the touch of another kind of architect, one who designed in human bone and sinew rather than brick and beam. No, this city was alive, and it demanded tribute 3 nights before the exchange. Selin went to the archives beneath the Scholar's Tower. There were records there, fragmentary, cryptic, of past exchanges. Most had been erased over the centuries, but a few pages remained. They described, in florid language, a passage from the living stones into the breathless realm, and the binding of one spirit to the city's root. The text did not speak of endings in the way common folk did. It spoke of transformation, of a permanence beyond flesh. She found a gift on her doorstep when she returned home that night, a narrow veil of pale linen, embroidered with a pattern of interlocking keys. No note, no sender. She understood it without needing an explanation. It was her veil for the exchange, a symbol that the door she would pass through could never be opened again. That night, the city slept under a shroud of clouds, as if it dreaded the moment when Selin would walk beneath the marble plaza for the last time. But dread was a luxury the city did not allow, and as dawn crept through the shutters, Selin began to ready herself for the day. She took the veil from its hiding place, smoothing out the folds. Its weight on her palm felt oddly comforting. Soon she would be the one thing the city couldn't be, still, silent, unmoving. How strange that the thought brought no fear, only a sort of peace. She slipped the veil into the folds of her skirt and went about her morning, preparing breakfast, fetching water from the well, checking the latch on the door just in case. When the sun climbed higher, she set out. The plaza was empty except for the pigeons pecking its scattered grain. The air hung heavy with the scent of dust and old stone. She walked slowly, counting the steps, the worn flagstones cool and damp under her worn leather shoes. At the center, the air shimmered above the lip of the fountain, and she paused, knowing what lay beneath. Not the river, not even earth, just cold, unending stone. This is the 3rd time I've read this passage, and I think I understand it better each time. But let me know what you think in the comments. How does this scene make you feel? What do you think is happening here? Before we jump into the symbolism, I want to quickly talk about sensory details. In this scene, there are very few descriptive details, but the ones that are there really help set the tone and atmosphere. For example, the night arrived without ceremony. No bells rang, no heralds announced it. And yet everyone in Harrows seemed to know. We don't know what time period the story is set in, but bells and heralds usually signify an important event. So by starting the scene with the absence of bells and heralds, the author establishes that something important is happening, but it's different, perhaps dangerous. And then there's the phrase, the streets emptied as though a silent curfew had been declared. When we imagine a curfew, especially in fantasy, we often picture guards going door to door, forcing people to stay inside. But this line suggests something even more unsettling. The people aren't just obeying a curfew, they're vanishing. The author continues to use this metaphor of emptiness when describing the plaza. Remember, these characters can't speak of this right freely, so they're hiding it, keeping it secret. And that secrecy adds another layer of meaning to the idea of the streets being empty. It's as if the people are ashamed or afraid to be caught doing this. Or maybe they're afraid of what will happen if anyone finds out that they were here. But it's not just the streets and plazas that are empty. There's also the idea that Selin is walking alone, that she is alone in this endeavor. Again, this makes us wonder, why is she banished for doing this? Did she choose to come alone? All of these questions contribute to the mounting suspense and mystery. Then suddenly, we get a line that helps us turn the corner from suspense to horror. Only the faint glow from the great plaza broke the darkness. The word glow implies something unnatural. We don't typically think of darkness as glowing. Something unnatural is happening here. The plaza should be dark. It should be empty. But instead, there's a glow coming from the marble. And that glow leads Selin to the next part of the ritual. Now, this is where I think it's helpful to look at some of the symbolism. First, there's the veil. Selin has probably worn the veil since she was a child. It's a part of her everyday life. So when she hides her face, we immediately know that she wants to conceal her identity. Why? Next, we have the idea of weaving. In medieval Europe, weavers were often women. They created tapestries, which were large pieces of cloth with images woven into them. They were used for decoration, but they also served an important symbolic function. Tapestries were used to separate a king from his court, or to hide a royal babe during a siege. They were even used as a form of propaganda. In other words, a tapestry could be used to conceal or reveal certain things. Considering this historical context, think about how the author describes Selin's people. They are literally weaving themselves into the foundation of the city. They are becoming part of the city's structure. And that brings us to the most important symbol in this scene, the bronze frame. The basin and the white dust are leading her to the bronze frame. She knows this is the threshold. But what exactly is a threshold? A threshold is the beginning and end of a passageway. It's the doorway between one place and another. But it's also the beginning and end of a process. So what is Selin entering here? She's entering the foundation of her city. She is becoming a part of the city itself. But how? Well, that's up to you to decide. What do you think Selin is doing here? Why do you think the people of Harrows hide this from their children? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button because I put out a new writing prompt every single day. The hum deepened, becoming a slow vibration that seemed to pull at the air itself. Selene stepped forward, her bare feet meeting the cold obsidian tiles. Each tile was carved with a single symbol, some sharp and angular, others flowing like streams, and as she moved, they warmed beneath her touch, as though recognizing her. The bronze frame loomed above her, impossibly intricate, its branches curling in ways that caught the torchlight like fleeting sparks. Within its center there was nothing, no door, no curtain, yet it seemed filled with a kind of shifting darkness. Not the absence of light, but the suggestion of depth without end. The elders circled the basin, sprinkling drops of scented oil into the dust. The grain stirred, releasing a fragrance of cedar and something older, metallic yet sweet, the scent of a memory one can't quite place. The other figures began a chant, low, resonant, and without melody. It was not music, but something more primal, the rhythm of tide and heartbeat, of breath drawn and released. Selene closed her eyes. Images rose unbidden, the plaza above bathed in dawn light, children playing along the canals, merchants calling out the weight of their wares. She saw the city not as stone and market stalls, but as a living presence, vast and patient, its lifeblood running through streets and aqueducts. In those visions, she felt herself dissolve into it, the edges of herself softening like clay under warm hands. The hum reached a pitch so high it was almost silence, and then stillness. The elder's voice broke it, not loud, but clear. The city remembers. A breath of wind passed through the bronze frame. Though no door had opened, no air should have moved, Selene stepped into it. For an instant, the chamber seemed to bend around her, the faces in the arches leaning forward, as though to watch her crossing. The darkness within the frame deepened, and her figure wavered like a reflection disturbed by ripples. Then, without sound, she was gone. The chant stopped. The dust in the basin settled, leaving the spiral perfectly intact. The elder lowered his head, and the cloaked figures turned toward the stairway. Their steps slow, deliberate, unhurried, as though nothing urgent had occurred, as though the exchange were merely a conversation between the city and one of its own. Above, the first light of dawn touched the marble plaza. Traders would soon return, the markets would stir, and Harrows would breathe again, prosperous, untroubled, unknowing. Yet in the deepest stone, beneath the echo of footsteps, the hum remained. From somewhere above, the scrape of a pot being lowered into a firebox, a woman stirring, a man clearing his throat. Sounds that once would have lifted Selene from sleep now meant nothing to her. Here, time was a stagnant pool, reflecting the eternal vigilance of the city. She sat cross-legged on a flat stone, wrapped in a robe of woven shadow. Her limbs felt alien, her body heavy. Her throat was full of grit, as though she had swallowed stones instead of bread. This was not a place of hunger or thirst, but some deeper, vaster emptiness. And here she was, expected to dwell. But how? What had compelled the exchange? Not fear, not love, but something older and vaster than either. A city given over to eternal peace, its people stilled, turned to stone. Yet the heart of it thrummed on, waiting. Waiting for what? And why had she been sent? To deliver a message, to bear witness, to learn. The answers swam just beyond the grasp of her mind, elusive as smoke. Then a flicker of movement in the corner of her eye. A shape detached itself from the shadows, taking on a semblance of a man, tall and lean with skin the color of polished copper. He inclined his head, and his voice, when he spoke, was like the scraping of a stone tool on bedrock. "You bring greetings from the surface, little one." His eyes glinted with amusement. "Did you think we would forget you?" "You knew I would come," she said, surprised by the tremor in her own voice. "We knew you would be sent," he corrected. "There is always a seeker, one who strays from the path, one who seeks to understand." He inclined his head again. "The city has many names, but you may call me Keeper. You have questions, I have answers, perhaps. Or perhaps I can ask you questions of my own." He smiled, baring teeth as white as bone. "Which is it to be?" Selene hesitated, her gaze sweeping the cavern, taking in the endless rows of silent faces. How long had they waited here? What had become of them, of us, and what did this place hope to gain? "Stillness," she whispered. "That is what it wants. Stillness." The weeks that followed, Harrows bloomed as if a long illness had lifted. Ships arrived in greater numbers, their sails bright against the horizon. The markets swelled with goods from distant lands, and the plazas rang with music once more. To the casual eye, the city was simply alive again, basking in the abundance it had always believed it deserved. No one mentioned Selene Maroff by name. Her home was quietly taken in by distant relatives, her few possessions dispersed without ceremony. It was not forgetfulness that erased hurt, was the way the city absorbed her, folding her presence into itself until she was inseparable from its stones, its water, its breath. Those who passed the great plaza might sometimes pause at the exact center, without knowing why. They would stand for a moment, feeling the faintest tremor underfoot, as though the marble held a heartbeat. A merchant might find his debts miraculously cleared after such a visit. A traveler might feel a sudden pull to remain in Harrows longer than planned. Such things were never spoken of directly, but the older citizens understood. The city gave, and it took, in measures that could not be weighed. In the scholar's tower, the archivists added a single line to the oldest ledger, a cryptic phrase written in the same ink as generations before. The exchange is kept. No date, no name, only the assurance that the covenant remained unbroken. And yet, whispers persisted in the narrow alleys after nightfall. They spoke of hearing a woman's voice in the hum beneath the plaza. Not mournful, but steady, like someone reciting a story to a listener just beyond sight. They said the voice changed with the seasons, sometimes speaking in the old tongue, sometimes in words familiar to any citizen of Harrows, always the same tone. Calm, knowing, patient. Perhaps it was only imagination, a trick of the wind through the old channels under the plaza. Or perhaps the city truly did remember, not as an abstract idea, but as a living memory, shaped in the likeness of those who had stepped willingly into its heart. And so Harrows thrived, while the hum continued far below, unseen but constant. A reminder that prosperity is never free, and that some pacts are too old, too deep, to ever be broken. Do you remember the first time you heard this tale? How about the second or the third? Each telling wove in a bit more of Selene, a bit more of the bargain struck so long ago. But where did it start? In the bustling city of Harrows, nestled between sun-drenched hills and a sea the color of a sapphire, lived a woman named Selene Marov. She tended the family spice shop, its air thick with cinnamon and secrets. Her days were filled with the city's pulse, the ebb and flow of merchants, nobles and scholars who frequented the shop for more than just spices. Selena knew each customer's story, their joys and woes, and offered not just wares, but a listening ear and a helping hand. Her heart was as expansive as the city she loved, harboring dreams of grand festivals, towering monuments and lives touched by kindness. But Harrows, with its grandeur, had its shadows. A creeping blight, unseen, stole the life from the soil, turning fertile fields into barren waste. Livestock perished, crops failed, and a haunting silence fell over the once vibrant land. Fear tightened its grip as the people of Harrows faced starvation. Their pleas for mercy echoed unanswered in the desolate landscape. Just when hope began to dwindle, a traveler arrived, tall and regal, with eyes that mirrored the endless sky. She carried an aura of quiet power. This was no ordinary visitor. She was Kayla, a celestial being who walked among mortals, bearing gifts and burdens both. In her hands, Selena saw a chance not just for herself, but for all of Harrows, eager to help her people. Selena approached Kyle with a desperate plea. She proposed a bargain, a pact to save Harrows from the brink of ruin. Kyle listened, her gaze unwavering, and when she finally spoke, her words hung in the air like a solemn vow. An exchange was made that day, one that would echo through the ages. Kyle bestowed upon Harrows the fertility it craved, its fields blossoming with bounty once more. In return, she asked for something far more intricate, something that resonated with the very essence of Harrows, its prosperity, its people, its heart. In essence, the city itself. Unwittingly, Selena became the conduit of this ancient bargain, forever linking her fate to that of Harrows and Kyle as the years rolled on. Selena's sacrifice was woven into the fabric of Harrows. It was a pact kept, debt paid, but also a story shared, a tale whispered from one generation to the next. With each retelling, the memory of Selena faded, becoming one with the city's soul. Still, every now and then, when the wind swept through the plazas of Harrows, one could almost hear a voice, a whisper of gratitude and quiet acceptance.